Welcome to lecture 4 of our course on landscapes. The title of this lecture is Cultural Landscapes. We introduce a new category, a new element to our narrative on landscape. Let me, first of all, recall what are the contents of the previous lectures. We have started with definitions of landscape according also to different languages, forms and types of landscapes. And then we have gone through the cultural landscape in art, poetry, literature, photography, and film. Then, in the third lecture, we have gone into legislation items, the right to landscape, and legislation on landscape. We are now ready to go a bit deeper into the topic. We define now what is cultural landscape. This is a long process, going to understand how landscape can be a complex element. So the World Heritage Committee in 1992 has defined a new category of landscapes, which are the one showing a combined works of nature and man. So they are transformed landscape starting from nature. And the definition of the World Heritage Committee is they are illustrative of the evolution of human society and settlement over time under the influence of the physical constraints and or opportunities presented by their natural environment and of successive social, economic, and cultural forces, both external and internal. So, what are cultural landscapes? They explain the transformation in different times or the layered landscapes. These landscapes are then selected by according to their features, to their cultures, to their characters. And as you can see, there is also, of course, this includes the communities. And so it includes social questions, economic questions, cultural questions. But we have many definitions to let you understand how cultural landscape became a tool, became a very important concept to understand in a wider and a deeper way the complexity of our topic. So Alberto Garlandini was a president of ICOM Italia. We said already what is ICOM. Is the International Council of Museums. Alberto Garlandini said, cultural landscapes promote cultural diversity. And this is very, very important. We need societies that recognize and accept both cultural similarities and cultural differences, enhance common values, and fight segregation and separation. This time that we are living with wars in Europe, with continuous attacks to the freedom of different cultures, we need to go back to culture as a tool for peace, a tool for inclusion between different society, between different cultures. Diversity is a big value, and landscapes are the show how important diversity is. And so inclusion, recognition of similarities and differences are the questions we are going to discuss. Also, cultural landscape has been defined as an approach, is a way of seeing, is a process. And so I quote again, a cultural landscape approach enables diverse communities to be seen as part of that landscape. That is, cultural, historical, political conditions affecting contemporary communities are part of the process of human engagement with the people. Try to read carefully these definitions and try to make your own exercise, which I will resume at the end of the lecture, on your capacity of opening your eyes, opening your mind to try to select and to understand how this diversity, how these different conditions and elements can shape, can give value to a landscape. So, the cultural landscape approach can be a means of reuniting fragmented approaches to valuing and constructing the environments we inhabit. Cultural landscape can be a means of overcoming distinctions between historic environment and new development, nature and culture, built heritage and context. So I want to remind you that landscape as defined by the European Landscape Convention is all the territory that we need or we want to describe or we want to understand. And so the dialogue, the play between historic environment and new development is rather interesting. To respect the sense of place, to respect the characters, to respect the the cultures according to historic elements, and so becoming experts of tools to transform landscape for the new communities in a as a continuity with the past. We are touching rather complex elements. I hope you can go through them because lecture by lecture you should be more and more able, expert on the topic. So another definition is cultural landscape can be seen as an umbrella term. And uh, we propose, or it has been proposed by international community of experts, a different types of cultural landscapes. Historic design landscapes, historic vernacular landscapes, historic sites, ethnographic landscape, organically evolved landscapes. This is rather complex. So we go to definitions and we go to see some case studies. Historic design landscape is an area of land which has been modified by people for primarily aesthetic effect. A design landscape may comprise landform, water, built structures, trees, and plants, all of which may be naturally occurring or introduced as new element. But what is important is that this landscape has been designed, has been controlled, has been planned. Then we have historic vernacular landscape, and this takes one other term, which is vernacular, connected to tradition. So a historic vernacular landscape is defined as a landscape that evolved through use by people whose activity or occupancy shaped those landscapes through social and cultural attitudes of an individual or a family or a community. The landscape reflects the physical, biological, and cultural character of those everyday lives. Then we go to historic sites, which are defined as cultural landscape significant for their association with a historic event, activity, or person. So this is linked to social history, to military history, or to cultural history, or other possibilities. And so these are sites that are important for their relevance in history. Then ethnographic landscapes are the one containing a variety of natural and cultural resources that the associated people defined as heritage resources. Then we have historic towns and centers, heritage canals, heritage routes. So you see the international community, UNESCO, at first, they try to categorize, they try um, to define landscape according to their character, to their origin, to their shapes. And this helps to recognize categories so they are listed. And this is a tool to protect them, but also um, to enhance the use of them, to keep them alive, also uh, um, proposing them to tourists, but to cultural tourism, not the mass tourism. And so the result of this description and analysis is the inscription of cultural landscape in World Heritage List for reveal and sustain the great diversity of the interactions between humans and their environment, for protecting living traditional cultures and preserving the traces of those that have disappeared. We have more than 100 properties that are inscribed in the World Heritage lists as cultural landscape. There is a complex number of criteria. 10 criteria have been described by World Heritage um, to um, to select, to describe it, to give the protection and inscribe in the cultural heritage category a different landscape. So these are here. I can say something, I can read something and leave the other to you, to your attempt to um, find case studies in your region, in your place. The first category, the first criterion is to represent a masterpiece of human creative genius, to exhibit an important interchange of human values over a span of time or within a cultural area of the world, on development in architecture of technology, monumental arts, town planning, landscape design, or to bear a unique or at least exceptional testimony to a cultural tradition or to a civilization which is living or which has disappeared. I leave it to your teachers because this is a more complex topic that must start from your teacher, and your teacher can guide you to go through these criteria. You see, they are 10. We can read 9. To be outstanding example representing significant ongoing ecological and biological processes in the evolution and development of terrestrial, freshwater, coastal and marine ecosystems and community of plants and animals. I propose case studies just to try to um, understand better how to um, how to recognize and select your own case studies. Uh, Design landscape was the first category. It was, in fact, historical design landscape, when we said that this is um, a, a landscape which has been transformed according to a specific project. Uh, of course, this can be a layered design landscape in history. So one of the first landscape put in the list on this category is Lednice-Valtice cultural landscape in the Czech Republic. And this was listed in 1996. In the list, you have to provide a description. And so we go to follow the description, and we can see a few pictures of this landscape. So the proposal is, for the selection is important landscape which has been formed between 17th and 20th century, when the ruling dukes of Liechtenstein transformed their domains in southern Moravia into a striking landscape. This landscape is a marriage, is a dialogue between Baroque architecture, signed mainly by the distinguished German Baroque architect Johann Werner Fischer von Erlach, and the classic and neo-Gothic style of the castles of Lednice and Baltice, with countryside fashion according to the English Romantic principles of landscape architecture. So different cultures, um, which are the sign of different um, times, different types, different times and different, we can say, styles, from Baroque to classic and neo-Gothic styles in 19th centuries, and then also English Romantic principles of landscape. All these elements have provided a unique composition of landscape, which is in fact designed according to models of the different times and styles. And so we see the pictures, we see how different are the elements of this landscape, which are architectural elements, which are also um, um, metal important construction according to 19th century, to protect the um, plants, landscape, and then open air landscape, different landscape according to the different, connected to the different buildings. And also the weather plays as an important element. The diversity or the changing of season provides green grass or beautiful flowers, or the white landscape or water landscape. And the the rule says that you have uh, to decide the perimeter of the protected landscape. So we can see that this is rather a big portion of territory, having different elements which are signed here. So we have only seen 4 pictures, but you see that the different elements that are in this protected area are um, are organized in the territory. And we see more pictures of the palaces of architecture, and also a detail of the interior. Many materials, many different languages that anyway establish a, a dialogue one to the other, and have to be protected to keep alive an important tradition for future generation. Then we jump into historic vernacular landscape, and we have an example, Dutchtown in St. Louis, USA, which is described as a century-old brick bungalows, townhouses, and um, flats line the streets of this neighborhood approximately 4 miles south of downtown St. Louis along the Mississippi River. So it is a line of buildings, of traditional buildings that express what is the vernacular tradition of a certain place, which is this downtown St. Louis along the Mississippi River. The area of Dutchtown was originally part of the St. Louis Commons and the common field of a once independent town, which was called Carondelet, annexed to St. Louis in 1870. So we have a historic element, and which is um, the the testimony, the witness of a Victorian era. In fact, the description goes on with Victorian era storefronts sit at the corners of the grid or residential blocks and edge the commercial streets. The focal point of the neighborhood centers on the intersection of Merrimack Street and Virginia Avenue is a topographic high point. One of the city's more densely populated neighborhood, Dutchtown's porous border is defined differently by the city and local resident. I propose you only an image which is a rather typical image of some cities of USA. And so they provide a very elegant composition of elements which are in front, following a street. They are all similar in shape, but they can change according to different builders, different owners, and also the capacity of owners to use materials or to the capacity of builder to bring their own expertise. So this is a vernacular landscape. Then we go to different kind of landscape, and this category is rather rich according to the list of World Heritage. Organically evolved landscape. Uh, uh, I propose you a couple of examples. These rice terraces of the Philippines Cordilleras, selected in and listed in 1995. The description says that it is a very long historical um, experience or capacity of this population to take advantage or to take resources from a very difficult landscape. For 2000 years, the high-rise fields of the Ifugao have followed the contours of the mountains, the fruit of knowledge handed down from one generation to the next, and the expression of sacred traditions and the delicate social balance. They have helped to create a landscape of great beauty that expresses the harmony between humankind and environment. And the beauty of these pictures are themselves speaking. We don't need really big words, many words. We can just um, agree that this is a unique landscape, which is the result of centuries of expertise, centuries of capacity of taking food, of taking life from a very difficult landscape, which is today the design of this unique landscape is the result of capacity of this community to adapt to their landscape and take resources and making this unique. A similar situation in a smaller scale is in Italy, in Cinque Terre, in Liguria. Um, uh, Here we see the case study of one of these 5 places, Porto Venere, which was listed in 1997. When we explain organically evolved, we have to be clear that these landscapes are the result of a long history. We have seen 2,000 years in the Philippines case study. Here we have also a very long old process. And so this is the Ligurian coast of Cinque Terre and the village or the town of Porto Venere, which are recognized as a cultural landscape of great scenic and cultural value. The layout and disposition of the small towns and the shaping of the surrounding landscape, overcoming the disadvantages of a steep, uneven terrain, encapsulate the continuous history of human settlement in this region over the past millennium. Again, a very difficult, special, complex, but beautiful land on the coast of Liguria, on the northern western part of Italian peninsula. Here you see the long line of landscape, which is all faced on the water, and we will see that this landscape is very steep, goes from high mountains deep into the water. And so it has been very difficult to shape roads, connections, and to build villages and places to live, but also very difficult to shape the landscape to take um, elements from it. And we see some photographs that say that in modern times a train line has been built to connect in a better way, a very difficult place. So there is also a road, but mm, this is only a modern element of a very beautiful landscape, which we can see in other places. We see the unique capacity of these villages to grow according to the steps or the form of landscape. And so they are also stepped villages, as we saw that were terraced terraced landscape in the previous case. Also here, we have a very known and very um, respected and valued terrace landscape, which grows wine and grows vegetables for these communities, which are also communities of fishermen, as we can see. The villages end into the water. The capacity of these communities to shape their villages, their houses, their places according to the local material and according to the special and difficult shape of the mountain going to fall into the water. And this is a beautiful church, one of the most known beauty jewels of Porto Venere. Then we have Pyrenees, Montperdu, 1999, which is also a organic grown landscape, which is described as an outstanding mountain landscape which spans the contemporary national borders of France and Spain. We know very well that Pyrenees are the border mountains between France and Spain. Anyway, this is the peak of the Mont Perdu, a calcareous massif that rises up to 3,352 meters. The site, with a local area of 30,639 hectares, includes two of Europe's largest and deepest canyons on the Spanish side and three major cirque walls and the more abrupt northern slope with France. Classic presentations of this geological landform. So the geology of the places has become an advantage or has become a tool, an element that was that needed to be um, uh, to be shaped to give life to communities. And so different elements, canyons on the Spanish side, cirque walls on the French sides. The site is also a pastoral landscape reflecting an agricultural way of life that was once widespread in the upland regions of Europe, but now survives only in this part of the Pyrenees. So, just to comment that these are old traditions, old way of using agriculture, of using the land for pastoral aims. Um, and this is so it is a surviving ability, a surviving piece of landscape, which has an important value and has to be protected. This is the border of this place. We see the regions of France and we see Spanish side. And this is a picture that shows us the beauty. This is a natural landscape, but then transformed and used for the reason we have said, pastoral reason and agricultural reason by their communities. And so flora living there, fauna, are also the protected element of this extremely beautiful landscape. So we conclude also the fourth lecture, which needs the help of your teacher, as I already underlined a couple of times. With the help of your teacher, you can go on the description of these categories of cultural landscape and try to find case studies of cultural landscape in your region. Taking photographs, going to visit them. This can be a fantastic opportunity to propose a travel of a couple of days or one day into your landscape, to have the possibility to describe the characters not only by photograph but also by description, by sketches, or by words. Try to also smell, breathe, with the other senses, not only the eyes, the vision, with all the senses. Try to understand the beauty and the importance of landscape, and then add to your study also the possibility to go to archives or to make researches to understand the history of these places. And if they're not enough protected, this can be a starting point for a kind of listing of this area um, into your community. Thank you for following the fourth lecture. See you in the next lecture.